All right, so I just sent you the link, so you should have it. We're live. Can't hear you. You're still on mute. Can't hear you.
Everyone hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
We're good. So we're just gonna wait, seeing some people come on. We're trying to get people on. We're excited though, because we finally got this together. We have our aunt, our favorite aunt of all times, Aunt Penny. That's how
you're
correct?
your aunt. That's my mama. Is your aunt.
That's your mama. That's my auntie. So the rest of the world knows her as Aunt Penny. So we are excited, you all. We finally made it work. I'm going to get this out to everybody during the week, and you are going to actually able to see the one and only Aunt Penny and understand exactly how she is doing, because I've gotten a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of prayers sent telling me to just really kind of be okay and know that Aunt Penny's going to be okay, and she's all right. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my very own aunt, my mother's sister, the youngest of the Branch girls, Miss Penny Branch Wallace. How are you doing?
John. Hi,
hey,
John.
how are you doing? Hello.
Great.
So good to see you. And I know that you're down in Texas and I'm out here in Vegas, but I wanted to take this opportunity to just tell you, not only do I love you, but we're all happy to see you. And just tell everybody, how are you doing?
I am doing fine. Thank God. Everything has been done. I had the mammogram. I had to have a biopsy. I've had a lumpectomy, no positive lymph nodes. Now I'm just waiting for my surgery to heal. And in June, I will have 5 days, twice a day treatment. I won't have to go the 6 and 7 week treatment. You see, I'm an old radiation therapist. I used to do this. And when it came to me, it was like, I've treated thousands and now it's my turn. But I don't have to do chemo. All I'm going to have to do is go for 5 days, once in the morning, and then I'll go again in the afternoon for the second treatment, and that will be it.
Okay. So that's a good thing. So it's technically stage 1, from what I remember you telling me.
Yes, I am stage 1.
Okay. So with that being said, I don't think you know, but the way we have this set up is when we do have a breast cancer survivor, I end up going to the table, or my desk, I should say, and I pull from my Twirling to Fight Cancer pink Post-it notes. And so those pink Post-it notes are ways in which I can ask you questions, but also the community can ask you questions. They send them to me and I write them down on the pink Post-it notes. So the first pink Post-it question comes with, bottom line is that the mantra of Twirling to Fight Cancer is also to celebrate the survivors. When you were first diagnosed, maybe what was the first thing you thought of? What was the first thing maybe that came to your mind?
Well, being that I had been in the field for over 25 years, it was a shock, because here I am on the other side of the treatment table. I've been the one treating, and now I'm going to be the one that's being treated. So it was kind of a shock, but I just felt like it's going to be okay. And I have walked with that feeling it's going to be okay.
Got it. Can you tell everybody a little bit of when you kind of had your treatment, because you just had to go in for one surgery technically, and it was surgery that was an in and out patient surgery, right?
The lumpectomy was in and out surgery. But before I had that, I had gone for a mammogram and they called me back to do an ultrasound. And then when the radiologist who looks at the ultrasound, she saw something from the mammogram and then saw it again on the ultrasound. So then she wanted to schedule me for what they call a ultrasound digital guided biopsy. And that's when she did it, the radiologist. And then she said, we'll send it off. And in a couple of days, I'll know whether it was malignant or not. And it was malignant. And then she referred me to a surgeon that was going to do the lumpectomy.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Now, one of the things that were asked, and I think a lot of women probably can share in this and want to know your perspective, but what was one of the phrases or maybe words that you did not want to hear? And then what did you want to hear maybe most from your family and friends? So what did you not want to hear? And then what is the one thing that you wanted to hear from your family or your friends?
Well, of course, I didn't want to hear that it was stage 4 or that the cancer had spread it to my lymph nodes or things like that. And I was glad to know that when I did hear the result from the radiology and the ultrasound biopsy that it was malignant. But I knew from walking with my sister through her cancer battle that we had other steps. So I had the comfort in knowing that I have those that have gone before me have a same feeling as I do, that we are in this fight together, and that I know that there are many others that can walk with me, or I will walk with them again.
Right. So I see we have some others that are joining, just have gotten on. So once again, those who are kind of wondering what's going on, we have gotten my Aunt Penny on the line on this finally to be able to talk to us and just share her experience. For those of you who don't know, when we go to nationals with the MBTA nationals at AYOP every year, my Aunt Penny is the one that normally sells the Twirling to Fight Cancer breast cancer shirts. So as you guys know, this was the third year, and it was the pink shirt that we used on that third year, and it was called Twirling for the Cure back then. And so she ends up selling the shirts for us while I go and judge. So everybody through the past years has just gotten a relationship with Aunt Penny and always asked me, well, how's she doing? And for those of you who have not heard, this past year, actually, she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 1. She's gone through her process, and she's still kind of continuing that journey. And so she wanted to get on and told me, yes, she would be willing to share her story and tell a little about what it's been like for her and what else she has left to do. So one of the things that came in that people wanted to know were, what did you not want to hear? That part, I don't know if we heard. What did you not want to hear, and what did you want to hear most from your family? What's that part? What did you want to hear from us? What did you need from us?
That they stood with me, that I'm not alone, and they are in the battle and walking with me. So that is what I wanted to hear more. And I felt it anyway. And I have a host of friends that were right there praying for me, ready to do whatever I needed. But fortunately, and it doesn't always happen, I've been in the field. I know what can do. So my anxiety was not as though someone who had never heard anything about cancer hear it. I was much calmer, but I was willing to know that when she said it was stage 1, I could sigh a relief, because I knew then it wasn't anywhere else, and we would do whatever they do.
So I have a question. You, I think it's been pretty much almost 4 to 5 years back to back that you've been at AYOP helping sell the shirts, and you only missed pretty much last year and the year before due to our transition of now being called Twirling to Fight Cancer. But is there any story, or is there anything that you remember in regard to, as the women may have been talking to you, that comes to mind that you remembered? Oh, well, I remember this one story of a family or a young woman talking about her situation when you were selling the shirts.
Oh, yes. There were times. Now, as he said, it's been 2 years, but I can remember one of the moms, and her daughter has a twirling group. And every year she would come and her husband would come, and it was just like family reunion. I
Mm,
met many fine ladies. Some ladies were survivors. Some had relatives that were survivors. At that time, I wasn't a survivor, but I was working in the field or had just retired from it. And I was able to give them little hints and tell them little things that I knew that would help them on the journey most of the time. And if I go back again, if we ever get back again, uh, it will be good to let them know that I made it, they can make it. So talking to different women that had relatives or themselves, it's always comforting for them to know I'm doing this, I'm working this, we're in this thing together.
right, right. So message, then what would be that message? If there's one message that you may want to share or say, what would that message be? What would you want to get out in that way?
I would tell any woman, I call a survivor the moment you hear that your tumor is malignant, your nodule is malignant, to know that you are not the first and that you are not alone. Connect with where you have your treatment, where you have your surgery, where you have your doctor's appointment, and get in a group and let them help you go through it. There are many, many women. Some will go through and won't make it, but there are many more that survive and that they are willing to share and walk. So knowing that there are other women that will walk with you and stand with you and see you through the hard times, and that I won't have chemo,
Mhm.
but I will have the short radiation. And that will be different because most women go the 6 to 7 weeks, but they've been doing this lately. And of course, with my tumor, my cancer, stage 1, I only have to do it twice a day for 5 days. So that's something you can check with your doctor when you're first diagnosed, but let you know that there are other methods and that there are new things coming out all the time, but you are not alone. There are many women that will stand with you.
Got it. Now I know that some of the family part of us is that, and for those of you who don't know, my mom had breast cancer and was the reason why this whole campaign started. I was a little nervous of what was going to happen. And so therefore I started a campaign and we sold t-shirts and a lot of people were supporting, a lot of people were saying prayers for my mom, and she's a survivor. And it's been now, we're in our 10th year. So it's Twirling to Fight Cancer, 10 years strong. And I know during that time, my aunt had came from Texas to Pittsburgh to help her sister out. And because her cancer, being my aunt's cancer, wasn't at the same level, and because of the COVID-19 was happening, we couldn't actually get to Texas. So it was hard on the family because we really wanted to be there to support, Aunt Penny, but we had to also respect this pandemic that was happening. But one of the main things was that I saw is that no matter the distance, the sisterly love was there. And I think that's one of the most important things that I've seen in kind of being somewhat of the leader within trying to make this really impactful for the twirling community, is that it is absolutely an extension of our twirling family. It becomes an extension of women and also men, but also whether your auntie, your mom, your grandma, your coach, it becomes something that actually unifies us. And although it can be a real tragedy, it ends up being something that is extremely strong within this twirling community. I do want to acknowledge that we did lose one of our breast cancer fighters, Kelly Swager. And Auntie, you may have remembered them. They were last year's, the daughters were last year's, Jillian and Claudia were last year's Twirling to Fight Cancer ambassadors. And their mother passed away this year. And so we ended up doing a towel called Kelly's Towel. And so Kelly's Towel is a towel that all the twirlers hopefully will get, and just remembering and honoring her legacy and her fight. But most importantly, it also going to be personalized, because on the towel it says, I'm fighting for, and then you put the name that you're fighting for. So for me, I'm putting your name. I'm fighting for Aunt Penny, knowing that you may be through the first stage, but you getting through your radiation and just keeping to that healthiness is what I know I'm going to continue to fight for. So every year I ask myself, why am I doing this? So as much as I wish it didn't happen to you, it's definitely given me that push to make sure I still have work to do so that it hopefully won't happen to another one. One of the questions that came up were, what lessons? What's the one lesson maybe that you learned about yourself that you want to share with everyone?
Well, the biggest lesson I learned for myself is it can happen to me. I don't
Mhm.
have a clear card because I treated it that I won't get it. But it was a lesson. And the lesson for others is learn to do yourself breast exam. If you don't know how to do it, when you go to your doctor, ask them to show you, the nurse to show you how to do it. And then don't hesitate to get a mammogram. If you have a strong family history, see with John's mother and my sister, there's just the two of us. My mother didn't pass away with cancer. She was 94 years old
Yeah.
and a diabetic for over 60 years and had double pneumonia and passed away. So it left Phyllis and I, but for other friends and other people that have a larger family, for the ladies, if and when it hits your family, be sure to get your mammograms, learn to do self breast exams. Those are the two things. And sometimes they'll even suggest, if you're a younger person and you have a family history of breast cancer, that you might have your mammogram before you're at the age of 40.
Mhm, mhm. So this is my last question. This comes from me. What
Good.
did you think I was going to ask that you're ready to answer that I didn't ask?
What was the question?
What did you think I was going to ask and was ready to answer that I didn't ask? Or what was the one thing you wanted to share that I didn't ask?
That I think my nephew is the greatest. I have one son. He's the mayor of Maynard, Texas, outside of Austin. And he is awesome. And John is just as awesome. I can remember, I've known John from, well, it wasn't day one because I was living away, but as soon as I got home, that was my nephew, has always been my nephew. So I am glad to be able to help, have always been proud to help. I always tell him, when I come to Notre Dame, my job is to sell those t-shirts and let people know that he's doing this to help fight cancer. So the question I thought he might ask me, well, what do you think about coming to Notre Dame? Well, I only come there to sell t-shirts and for him to get me those pretzels they have at the university. I always say,
You
did you
know,
get me a pretzel?
pretzels
I love those pretzels in the ices, or not
and the ices.
ices.
Oh yeah, those ices are good too. I love the snow cones too.
Yes, yes. So the question would be, what do you like to do when you come to sell those t-shirts and get a pretzel and an icy? And I'm not there. I may not even get to the university but one or two times, but he knows what I like.
Yes. And at the end of the day, mom was the baton twirler. So my mom was the baton twirler. My aunt was the cheerleader. And they both acted a mess. So we love them dearly.
And we still
Thank you,
are.
thank you, thank you. I love you. And we're
I
signing
love
off.
you too.
All right. And I appreciate this. So thank you. And signing off with Aunt Penny. This is Coach John Baton. And come next week for Twirling to Fight Cancer Thursday Talk. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.